Hi, Annalisa here with ABC for Dance with my handy model Fred, and today we're going to go through lesson 21, which is talking about the scapula. The scapula we often just call the shoulder blades. Right? They're on the back of our ribs. They are not attached to our ribs despite what you see on the skeleton where they're bolted there. They actually kind of float on a bed of muscles and soft tissue so that they can glide around. They're not affixed to our ribs. The only place your scapula meet the rest of your body is this little connection by your shoulder joint itself called your clavicle. So that's your connection point, and it's actually pretty delicate, which is why falling sideways on your shoulder can cause some problems. So you want to be careful, especially in modern and contemporary, when we do all those falls to the side, that this joint is well supported and you don't actually hit the bones on the side. I have a spare scapula, always handy to have an extra around, and I ringed it in bright pink so that it's a little bit easier to see when we look at the movement. Okay? What we want to talk about are the parts of our scapula. So we have the main scapula. This section is called the spine of the scapula, and I'm going to just show it to you a little bit closer here. The spine of the scapula is this raised edge, okay? And it's on the top part of the scapula. We also have what's called the superior angle, which is the tallest part of the scapula. So that's way up here. That's our superior angle, which means the bottom point here is our inferior angle. So superior, highest, inferior, lower. We also, for this exercise, need to remember something about our neck. So we have 7 vertebrae in our neck. We're going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Right? This is my biggest cervical vertebra. If I turn sideways, you're going to see it's right above where our ribs connect. And I'm going to put a piece of tape there, just because otherwise I'm going to run out of fingers. So we need to know this vertebra for the exercise we're going to do. And you are going to need a helper for this exercise. I have not figured out a way to do this without an extra person yet. Fred is my extra person. The problem being Fred doesn't move too well, so you're going to have to excuse some of his stiffness. To find your 7th vertebra, what you want to do is you want to drop your head forward. And when you drop your head forward, your 7th vertebra is going to be the most prominent, because when we did our spinal flexion exercise, we remember that as something goes forward, it's going to slide forward and away, which is going to leave this very exposed. So if you've ever seen somebody studying at a desk in front of you and they have their head drop forward and you can see their neck, sometimes you see a little bump at the back of their neck. That is most likely their 7th vertebra. So we're going to take that 7th vertebra and we are going to count down 2. And the best way to do that is to kind of find that point and then use your fingers to poke. When you poke, you're going to feel bump, bump, because we have those spinous processes in the back, the part that reminds us of a dinosaur. So we're going to count down 2 of those, and this is going to be our T2 vertebra. So 7th vertebra is orange, T2 is blue. If my shoulders are what we consider neutral or really well aligned, the superior angle of my scapula should be in line with my T2, or close to it. If my superior angle is higher, that's called elevation of the scapula. If it's lower, and this is actually quite common in dancers, to have this lower, this is called depression of the scapula. The easiest way to find this superior angle, if your partner or the person that you're working with is not a skeleton, is to pretend that you're being handcuffed. You're going to take your arm and bend it behind you in the handcuff position. So you're going to bend it into this position. And as you do that, this angle is going to become much more prominent, so it's going to be easy to find. So once we find that angle, we're going to drop our hand back down to our side, and then you're going to glide over and see where does that meet my spine. Is it around my T2? Is it higher than my T2? Or is it lower than my T2? And that gives us an answer on whether our resting shoulder position is elevated, neutral, or depressed. Then you want to go to the other side and do the same thing. Because as we noticed when we did this exercise in lesson 20 to kind of open our shoulders up, our scapula may not be the same place on both sides, especially if you carry a bag or a backpack on one side, or your dance bag on one side. You may find that you have one shoulder higher, one shoulder lower on a regular basis. And part of that can just be a muscle imbalance from carrying something heavy on one side. So again, our T2 and our C7 aren't going to move. But if you want to do the whole process again, round your head forward. When you round your head forward, they can find C7. That's the one that's going to stick out the most. You can stay rounded forward, which will make it easier for them to find the next two. You count down 1, 2. This is your T2. When you find your T2, make sure you bring your body up to vertical. Then they can put a finger there, or they can put a piece of tape or a sticker, whatever makes it easier. You need to find the superior angle. To find the superior angle, you bring your arm behind you like you're being handcuffed. And the superior angle is going to be easy to find by poking around up top. Before you go any further, drop that arm by your side so your shoulder realigns itself. And then you want to see superior angle inline, neutral. Higher is elevated, lower is depressed. So you want to play around with that and just see, are your shoulders even from side to side? Do you have one side that tends to be high, one side that tends to be low? Visually, does it look the same as what you find out when you poke around or have someone poke around on you? And then when you go into your dance class next time, you want to start thinking about, with my shoulders, maybe look in the mirror and say, well, this one I know is supposed to be high, so how do I relax it down a little bit? Or this one's lower, so I don't need to press it down. When my teacher says shoulders down, I don't want to keep pressing them down lower than where that neutral is. So you want to just get a better sense of where your body sits naturally, so that when you get into class, you can find the alignment that works best for your dancing. So now that we know where your shoulders naturally want to kind of stay when they're not working, let's go through a little exercise to feel all of those positions. You're going to bring your shoulders up towards your ears. This is elevation. You're going to glide them back down to your starting point. This is your neutral position. And then you're going to pull your fingertips down towards the floor. That's depression. Sometimes when we're going through those motions, it's really hard to stay flat. We start to round or arch to get more movement. So if you think you might be cheating, just bring your back against a wall and do the same thing. Glide up, trying to keep your shoulders along the wall. Find your neutral and then pull down and see if that changes your range of motion. If you don't have a wall that's comfortable to lean against, you can also do it lying on the floor. And again, you want to just feel your shoulders blades gliding along the floor. You don't want to feel like you're digging into the floor, and you don't want to feel like you're rounding up. As long as they're skimming the floor, you know you're probably not adding a lot of what we call protraction or retraction or rounding or arching through the shoulder area.